What's going on, Jerome's? Your Minnesota Vikings head out to the desert to take on the 5-7 Las Vegas Raiders. So getting to know your opponent, getting to know your enemy a little bit, even though it's got to be tough for the Raiders because this is going to be a road game for them. And they basically play 17 road games a year because Vikings are going to skull the crap out of Allegiant Stadium. But the Raiders do boast Max Crosby, the pride of Eastern Michigan. Absolutely love him. And Antonio Pierce, AP, former great linebacker for the Giants, and he's the interim head coach after they fired stupid-ass Josh McDaniels. And, Antonio Pierce, I love it. And also the Raiders got a little bit of the bump that you usually get from firing a very unpopular coach, and we'll just go from there. And also, ever since McDaniels got fired, Jimmy G, sit down. Be humble. And Aiden O'Connell is in the driver's seat. Now, O'Connell looked great in preseason. He's whatever. He's whatever in the regular season. I think that he's destined to be a career backup. I think that if he could have a Jabroni Brisket type career, I think that would be a win for him. But it's so funny. So he was drafted in the 5th round, and the Vikings could have had him ahead of Jaron Hall. And I purposely don't think they did it, number one, because of the mustache. Number two, because I don't think the Vikings could have handled all the announcer, O'Connell is drawing up plays for O'Connell type puns. Just like exactly why the Vikings won't draft J.J. McCarthy, because I could not handle J.J. drops back and throws to J.J. They just think they're so clever. But yeah, Aiden O'Connell will be under center against the Vikes. And the Raiders, bit of a circuitous path to 5-7. So they started out 1-3. Sounds familiar. But they've had a couple of decent wins. One at Denver before Denver was ass and before Denver got good again. Lost to Buffalo, lost against the Steelers, lost at LA, and then they beat the Packers at home, which, by the way, the Packers had the absolute best setup for a Raiders game because Monday night is key. So you're in Vegas all weekend, and then you fly out on Tuesday morning. Tuesday's gone with the win. Yeah, you have good times there. But yeah, they lost. No big deal. You got they beat the Patriots, but then again, who doesn't beat the Patriots? They lost to the Bears. Remember that they just got hammered by the Bears, and then they basically got beat down against Detroit. I mean, the 26-14 score is not indicative of how one-sided that game actually was. That's when McDaniels got fired, and then over the last 4 games, Pierce has led them to a 2-2 record, wins over the 2 New York teams, but really New Jersey, and then kind of a close loss against close adjacent loss against the Dolphins. Gave them all they could handle in South Beach, and then they lost against the. They got to a big lead against the Chiefs, and then Kansas City was just like, no. It's kind of funny. And they were on the bye week 13. And the Raiders, offensively, not great. 27th in points, 29th in yards. Some that is a carryover from Jimmy G, though. Defensively, I like pieces of their defense, and they can get a stop here or there, but they're 18th in points and 20th in yards, 26th in third down, and 27th in red zone. So the Vikings offense, if you can't get something done against a sort of a moribund defense, and especially when it's a de facto home game, got problems, man. Got problems. But for the Raiders, Bo Hardigree is the interim OC. Patrick Graham, interesting name, is the DC. Now, he had actually interviewed and gotten pretty deep in the Vikings head coaching search before the Vikings ultimately went with Kevin O'Connell. So that is something to watch. He's still seen as a up-and-coming defensive coordinator. But offensively, O'Connell's under center. Sure, Jimmy G's the backup. Brian Hoyer is QB3 for whatever reason. But it does start and end with the receivers. So Devontae's frustrated, man. And going back to that Lions game, not that I'm frustrated like fantasy-wise or wagering-wise, but Devontae Adams probably should have had 2 60-plus yard touchdowns, including like a 90-yard touchdown against the Lions. Not that I'm bitter. But Jimmy G is ass, thank you. Devontae, I could just bide his time. I think that he weasels his way to the Jets in the offseason. But Jacoby Myers, free agent signing, I do like Jacoby Myers. I feel like the pride of NC State is a little bit underrated. We'll see. They don't use Hunter Renfrow. Colton Miller is dinged up. He's one of their best offensive linemen, so he's dinged up. Dylan Parham, I actually love Dylan Parham in the draft a couple of years ago. Greg Van Roten is all up in there. Jermaine Elimanior, who was a bit of a utility backup for the Ravens and the Patriots. I wouldn't mind if the Vikings would have picked him up, so they're actually kind of thin along the offensive line. Michael Mayer, Halloween's over, man. So their second-round pick out of Notre Dame. Look for him to get a little bit of work. Josh Jacobs is in the backfield. He's a solid do-it-all running back. Can run with a little bit of power. Is a solid receiver. And I actually like Josh Jacobs a lot. And also, RB2, the change of pace and receiving back. Amir Abdullah, still in the league, man. Absolutely love to see it, man. Defensively, yes. I mean, it starts and ends on the edge. Crosby is an absolute monster. He's probably a top 4 edge rusher in the game right now. Like, I would say Dylan. So I would say Daniil. I would say TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and also Max Crosby as your top 4 right now on the edge. And then also they got Malcolm Kuntz, the pride of Buffalo, is a guy that I liked a lot, third-round pick in 2021, as well as first-round pick Tyree Wilson. So Tyree Wilson was a super high draft pick coming out of Texas Tech because of Danielle Hunter. And let me explain why. So Tyree Wilson, it was a super physical freak. Maybe he doesn't have the bend that you would want around the edge, but he's a guy. I mean, Danielle Hunter had 4.5 sacks at LSU, but he was a third-round pick because he was a physical freak and traits. And Patterson and Zimmer got the best out of Danielle, and also Danielle rose up. And so that's why guys like Tyree Wilson with sort of whatever college production is coming in and getting drafted high because they're just trying to find the next Danielle Hunter. That should tell you something about Danielle Hunter. Why the Vikings should pay him. John Jenkins, large nose tackle from the Dolphins. Now, is it kind of telling that Zero, Goose Egg, D'Angelo Russell, Flores guys followed him to Minnesota? I wouldn't mind John Jenkins. I mean, the older veteran. Robert Spillane. I actually like Spillane, and plus I'm a bit of a numbers snob, but I feel like 40 series numbers work for linebackers. You look at Ivan Pace Jr., you look at Spillane. Also, Spillane has the visor, so that looks really good too. I love it, man. It's good times. The secondary is super interesting because it's sort of the island of misfit toys. So Jack Jones, they claimed off of waivers after New England cut him. Now, Jones had a fantastic rookie season, but then, I don't know, just off-field stuff, in-house stuff, and he was let go, and the Raiders picked him up. And it sort of used to be the MO of the Raiders, where we're the island of misfit toys. Like Jim Plunkett, former number 1 overall pick, is going to lead us to 2 Super Bowls. And I always love that. I think it fits their renegade mystique. And, I mean, said this before. If I had to pick a second team, I'd probably pick the Raiders. Because love me some Vegas. I love the mystique. I love the history of the Raiders. I love Al Davis back in the day before they just started drafting the fast guy in every single class. Trevor Morig, a bit of an undersized safety from TCU. I loved him in the draft. Marcus Epps, former Viking 6th-round pick out of Wyoming. Woo! Was poached off of the practice squad by the Eagles, turned into a starter, and then signed in free agency with the Raiders. But he is dinged up right now. Amik Robertson, the pride of Louisiana Tech, has been great in the slot as well as on the outside. And then also Nate Hobbs is in that secondary too. So, I mean, the thing is, like, their defense on paper, it should be pretty damn solid, but they have had issues. And, of course, former Vikings legend Daniel Carlson can he kick it? Yes, he can. Even though Zimmer didn't think so. A.J. Cole is a solid punter. DeAndre Carter is a decent return guy. So there you go. I mean, the Raiders, like we said, offensively, I don't know what Devontae Adams is thinking. Like, I understand that he wanted to link up with his guy Derek Carr, but I mean, Derek Carr is ass. Thank you. So is Jimmy G. He's even worse. Aiden O'Connell, who knows? But again, if the Vikings defense and Flores can't have a great day against a very suspect offense and a very injured and questionable offensive line, I don't know, man. I don't know. But the defense has been carrying this team. The defense had 2 great games against the Broncos and the Bears, and the offense squandered it. And like we said, the offense got to take care of Max Crosby, and Brian O'Neill has to have a bounce-back game. I know that he sort of was worked by Montez Sweat in the Bears game, but he's got to shake that off. Crosby generally rushes from the left side, so Vikings got to bring their lunch pail, and they got to be able to put up some crooked numbers on this defense, and hopefully Flores will be able to contain all of this. So we'll go from there, man. But that's it That's it. Getting to know the Raiders. Know your enemy. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.